Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Hello everyone, we are from Group 5 and today we will be discussing on the controversy of Al-Zaytun boarding school, which is allegedly supported by the Indonesian police or the government. Before proceeding to the discussion, let us introduce ourselves. My name is Sahrul Hidayat as the moderator.
My name is Muhammad Ihsan Padilla.
My name is Ahmad Apriansah.
And my name is Muklis Sina.
So that is for the introduction. Now we will begin the discussion. Everyone, please explain your stance on the motion first before giving your argument.
All right, thank you, Sahrul. I'll start first. My stand is always neutral. So the idea here is whether Al-Zaytun boarding school is backed by the government or not. Well, let's talk about the how first. It was said that it doesn't follow actual Islam ways of teaching based on the news. And if it is as misguided as the news said, and it's been going for 20 years or so, how does it fly under the radar for so long?
I think the boarding school has been protected by the police. If the news said that is has been running for 20 years teaching heresy and no one from the government or MUI realized it, and finally, now it is revealed the truth that the boarding school teaches heresy. And when they were caught, they were still ignorant of the problem. But reportedly, the boarding school and its founder are being investigated. But reportedly, until now, the founder of the boarding school is still in the process of investigation. It took a long time, so I think the boarding school has been protected by the police.
I'm sorry. So just because the investigation took a long time, you assume that they were protected by the police or the government. I mean, that doesn't sound right because based on the existing regulations in Indonesia, investigation for a case can last as short as 30 days and as long as 120 days, depending on how difficult or big the case is. Why? Because so there is no mistake in solving the case, because if there is a misinput and the person was proven guilty, even though he is innocent, it wouldn't do the justice system any good.
Well, I mean, I think in more than 2 weeks, it's enough, especially since the problem has been very revealing that the boarding school teaches heresy, and the founder of the boarding school is also being investigated. Okay, so forgive me, Yan.
I don't think so. Law exists for a reason. I am going to agree with Ian. Everybody without exception is not above the law and should be abide by it. If the justice system is giving in just because of peer pressure, then there is no integrity for the justice system itself.
I agree. So, what's your opinion on this, Ihsan?
My opinion is just like you, Sahrul. I think the Islamic boarding school has been protected by the police. If the news says that it has been going on for 20 years, teaching different sects, and no one from the government or MUI is aware of it, and finally, now the truth has been revealed that the Islamic boarding school teaches heretical sect. And when it was found out that they were still ignorant of the problem, however, it was reported that the Islamic boarding school and its founder were being investigated. But reportedly, until now, the founders of the Islamic boarding school were still in the process of being investigated. It's been a long time, hasn't it? So, in my opinion, the Islamic boarding school has been protected by the police.
Okay. The thing is, if it's been going on for so long, why isn't there anyone or a single whistleblower for 2 decades? Like, it's been a long time. Surely there will be a single person coming out because they realized that the teaching just wasn't right. it wasn't actual Islam of way of teaching. And like I said before, it is still in the process of investigation, and obviously to prevent any mistake and misinput, it will take a long time.
Um, I also agree with Ihsan's opinion. This sect is very heretical. They have indoctrinated many students there. Even I heard from social media when one student returned to his hometown, the student change was very different from usual. For example, when his mother washed the clothes of the child, the child was angry and snapped at his mother while taking, Mom, it's still heretic. Why was my clothes? Nah, I think it is the influence of brainwashing from the boarding school that teaches the cult. But if the boarding school wants to continue with the new management, it will take a long time to return to the proper teaching because it has been indoctrinated by the previous management.
Uh, for that one, I couldn't say much because personally, I don't know anything about them internally or how they study, especially their method of teaching. I wouldn't assume everyone was brainwashed so bad that they ended up behaving like the one you mentioned before. As for the indoctrination, if it is proven to be true, then I hope the division under the Ministry of Religion, who's in charge of the supervising of the boarding school of now for temporarily can do something about it.
Well,
But
it's true.
for
And I'll take it first. It's true. Until now, they have not found solid evidence about how their learning method works. For that, I will not say any facts in this case. The evidence that is still being found is in the form of video recordings, which are later investigated as cases of religious blasphemy. And of course, in handling this case, we must be careful and thorough. Don't just look at it from one side.
I agree. Since I've said I'm still neutral about this situation, I don't have much to say until the investigation is finished. However, every time I try to look for an actual news that tells a story about it, it's difficult. But I did find something interesting to talk about, which is the personal bank account of Panji Gumilang, which is the head of the boarding school itself, has been frozen for investigation. It was a total of 256 of his personal
wow,
account being frozen for investigation. If our justice system is as clean as we always wish and strive to be, it should be proven then from here whether there is a gratification or secret transaction involving the government or the police, because if it is proven there is a link between the government and the police that receive gratification from the bank account, then there isn't much to say about but to admit that it is the truth. However, since the investigation is still ongoing by now, we should remain patient and not to get swayed by general opinion of the public, but remain calm as to not further escalate the situation.
Yes, and in this case, the legal action from the community want to be follow up immediately and want the Al-Zaytun Islamic boarding school to be closed. The government itself will not follow up on anything before finding any evidence and said that this boarding school should be rebuilt, not closed. And the status of prosecution in this case is related to legal criminal acts is involving individual, not institution.
Yes,
Institutions.
I agree with you. That's what I mean by not to escalate the situation.
I agree with you. But for me, this thought is very troubling, especially for Muslims for handling it. in my opinion, don't just focus on Panji Gumilang, but must dig into its root. But if only he is punished while his teaching has been continued by others, that is still the case, right? Our concern will continue because this boarding school has been established for decades.
Yeah, and according to the information that I got, the knowledge was presented to selected people and was also applied by administrator and teacher who had high loyalty. If left unchecked, the destructive power to this nation and state is enormous because they have many students and get very good facilities. So just image every time the students are indoctrinated with ideologies and views that are contrary to our country. In my opinion, this Al-Zaytun Islamic boarding school should be closed immediately. But we must take wise action for student, teacher, and also the administration.
Whoa, close immediately. Calm down. That's why I said not to escalate it. If the boarding school is to be closed immediately, I mean, who's going to compensate to pay the loss of thousands of students who's currently studying there? And since the case hasn't even reached a hearing, no officials of the boarding schools are eligible for compensation unless it is proven to be so. If you really insist, then would the government using their tax to compensate a loss of a private boarding school? That's like a dumb way of wasting tax money, considering we're still a developing country.
All right, and in my opinion, the boarding school just needs to be rebuilt and return the system to how it should be. I mean, think about it like this. We only need to get rid of the bad side and replace it with new things that are better and don't throw away the good side.
Okay, so there is no definite news about the Al Zaytun boarding school. Our response as civilians is to wait for the decision of the government in handling the case. Hopefully, this case is handled wisely because it involves many parties.
Yes,
So,
hopefully so.
so the conclusion is we should be smart in choosing a boarding school because we don't know in the boarding school whether the educator teacher according to Islamic religious law or not.
And also, don't escalate the situation because it's not like the government ignore this problem because I mean the investigation is still ongoing, so the public should still remain calm.
Not every
Okay.
news is valid.
Yes. Okay, so I think that's enough discussion from our group. Thank you so much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.